Hey guys, welcome to your 9th beginner's Java tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you about the while loop and the for loop. Also, the do loop. Now, let's start off with the while loop. Now what the while loop does, it's a bit like the if statement. To start it off we write while, and then we give it a condition, and then we open and close our block like this. This is what a while statement looks like. Now in the parameters, we need to give the while loop a condition, and the while loop will run as long as that condition is true. So let me give you an example now. If I create an integer called counter, and I make that equal to, well, what happened there? Int count. What the? No. Wow, I don't know what that was. Int counter equals 0, and anyway, so we want this while loop to be true. We want this while loop to run until the counter equals 10. So while counter is less than 10, this loop is going to run. Now at the moment, this loop, this is an infinite while loop because counter will always be 0 because it's not being changed anywhere else. So to do that, we write counter plus plus. Now, when the program starts, it's gonna say, alright, there's a counter variable that's equal to 0. Then it's gonna say while counter is less than 10, it's going to do something, and then every time it runs this, it's going to add 1 to the counter. So after 10 loops, this is going to become false, and I'll make that less than or equal to. So now we need to give it something to do, so we'll make the counter plus at the end, so we're just going to say system out print line, and then we're going to just print out the counter. Now let me explain again what this is going to do. We've made a variable counter which is equal to 0, and this while loop is going to run as long as this condition is true. So the condition in our case is whilst the counter is less than or equal to 10. So this while loop is going to say, alright, counter is equal to 0, that is less than or equal to 10. So print out the counter and then add 1 to the counter. Then this loop is going to run again and counter is equal to 1. And that's going to run over and over until the counter equals 10. So let's run this and I'll show you exactly what happens. Run. And as you can see on the screen, it's printed out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now, as you can see, yeah, it's done that. Now I'm going to brings me on to my second point, which is the do while loop, and this is very similar to this. If we just copy this bit here, or cut it rather, and write do, and then at the end of our block we'll paste this while loop, and then put our semicolon. Now this does the exact same thing, except it's just a different way of writing it. So it says to the computer, alright, do this whilst this condition is true. And you can do it either way, it doesn't really matter. I'll keep this as the while loop for now. But now I'm going to show you the for loop, which essentially does the same thing, but in slightly less amount of time. So to start the for loop, we write for, and then our parameters, and then our block. Now this takes 3 parameters. First of all, it takes a counter which you create and initialize, and then it takes what the condition that needs to be true for it to run, and then it takes a plus plus or a minus minus of the counter. Let me show you right now. So int count equals 0, then you put a semicolon, and then count less than or equal to 10, semicolon, then count plus plus, and then we can write system out print line and print the count. Now if we run this, it does the exact same thing as the other two. Now that's the while, for, and do while loops. Essentially they all do the same thing, but in slightly different ways. You'll begin to learn when each one is appropriate to use, but hopefully that was easy enough to understand. And actually, I'll go over the for loop one more time. I didn't explain it very well, so it's going to say this condition says for. So while this is true, or rather, wait, I'll start that again. So this is for the for loop, and then in our parameters we have three parameters. One is a variable which we can either declare or initialize. We've initialized it in this case. Then we put a semicolon. The next parameter is the condition that needs to be true for this loop to run, and the next counter is adding one to the counter, or minusing one, or adding however many to the counter. And then this line here simply prints out the counter to the screen, and the result is numbers 0 to 10. Hopefully that was explained a bit better. Again, leave any comments, criticism, constructive criticism, how I could do these better. I'm trying to aim this at the purely non-programmer audience to try and give them an introduction to Java. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, and I will see you next time.